Numbers, numbers, numbers. They're beautiful. Why? Because they tell the truth. If you look at them the right way, they may give you an insight into the future. They give you projections. They give you intelligence. The streaming numbers for Zack Snyder's Justice League remained a mystery. HBO Max nor any entity in Warner Media has wanted to talk about them. Yet, from many different places, we are seeing very, very strong signs of this being a success. Let's take a look. All right, guys, good stuff. Couple of things, interesting things to talk about. We continue to wait, desperately wait for the release of the Snyder Cut numbers, which it appears to be that Warner Media has some sort of gag order to not talk about this project under any circumstance, and that means not discuss the numbers, which is a little bit weird if you ask me. It seems to me that this is a very, this is a slam dunk. I think that, you know, from many different angles, you can see that this was a success. Yet we don't hear anything. As a company, as a publicly traded company, I see that it would be the responsibility to take this as a major win and to use the momentum and hype that that film generated towards creating more marketing attention for their company. But we are not seeing that. There is an investors call coming up soon to talk about that. I am very curious as to how they're going to portray this. The official line is that pretty much every movie that came out, even little things, beat Zack Snyder's Justice League by a wide margin. That is very, very hard to believe. If you look at concepts from other different places, you can sort of see how potentially this film was a gigantic success. So if this is happening in other parts of the world and all signs point one direction, why is this silent? Why are they hiding this success? So let's take a look at a couple of things that I thought were pretty interesting. So number one, let's take a look at data from a sports data analysis company called Dentani Inc. They put together a very solid analysis. They are a sports data metric and data metric analysis company. They took into account the data metrics from top 5 TV rating platforms, over the top and app measurements, Google APIs, and they use their own AI and machine learning technology to determine the estimated numbers. And the numbers are quite impressive. They say that they are looking at a total of 32.1 million total views. North America, HBO Max with 11.3 million. Crave TV in Canada with 3.41 million. UK, Sky Cinema with 2.88 million. And Mexico, 1 million. Asia markets, 2.75 with HBO Asia. Middle East and India, 339 and 376K each. In Australia, between Binge and Foxtel, you're looking at about 1.5 million. In New Zealand, about 150K. South America, 1.84 million. European, HBO Nordic and HBO Europe, 3.12 million. Russia, 3.86 million. South Africa, 318K. North Africa, 69K. This is data from 18th of March to 20th of April. Like I said, they used a couple different metrics to come to that conclusion. So the numbers are obviously very strong. They are backed by announcements from other companies that they say clearly that this was very requested, let's say, title. So lots of to back up this information, we could look at other places where they have made similar claims. Bloomberg and other articles like in showflick.com, where they talk about the success about this film, you can clearly see that what I just mentioned, the numbers I just mentioned, they're somewhat correlated to other analyses performed. So, for example, in this article I'm looking at, and I'll put it in the description, from Showflick, they talk about number one, Canada being 1.1 plus million viewers on the Crave channel streaming service, beating Game of Thrones. I'll talk about this again in a second. This is extremely important and relevant. In India, they had 100,000 streams in about 3 days. As per the book My Show Ticket Inside, it sold over 70,000 streams for the film on its opening day, and it took only 3 days to reach the 100,000 or the 1 million record streams. Not sure. They say the number is phenomenal, just knowing that India doesn't even get HBO Max and HBO Go streaming services. The Book My Show stream also registered over 31,000 pre-booking before the movie release. And essentially, HBO Go saw a massive demand for the Snyder Cut in Asian countries like Malaysia, Singapore, Philippines, etc., which eventually led to the crash of the HBO Go streaming platform several times. Then there is United States, Samba TV, who came up with 2.2 million plus viewers watched the whole movie from March 18th and 25th. I think they reported that, let me see, the 2.2 million households watch at least 5 minutes. I really don't really care about that kind of metric of the first 5 minutes, the first minute, the first 30 seconds. To me, I don't care about that really. It's about who watched over half of the film or at least a certain amount of time. But these 5 minute metrics are kind of pathetic. I don't really think there's any value to them. What you want to know is what kind of fandom you're creating and who's kind of watching the film or at least spending an X amount of time. But 5 minutes, I mean, come on. Some people may like it, but I don't think it's that good. In any case, UK, as per the data stats, 954,000 people in the UK watched Justice League via Sky Cinema on the first weekend. Brazil, very important. Not a lot of data from Brazil because its online retailer now was the one offering it, and they themselves revealed that Brazil broke all of their rental records. The movie was rented 140% more than the previous record holder, which was Wonder Woman 1984. So this movie dwarfed it significantly. Same thing for France. They obtained over 100,000 digital purchases reported by Warner Brothers Finance. And then you have, and then we can go to TVTime.com, TV tracking app. They mentioned that the Snyder Cut was the most watched movie on the weekend of release. It also tells that it's tracking, or it tracked over 35% higher than Wonder Woman 1984, 3 days post-release in terms of the audience demand. The movie was also tracking higher than Mortal Kombat and other releases set to hit HBO Max in upcoming weeks. Samba TV again, they said that over 1.8 million households viewed the Snyder Cut over the weekend of March 19th to 21st. Compared to The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which clocked at 1.7 million households on Disney Plus. The MCU series debuted was the most watched Disney Plus premiere weekend to date, but wasn't quite enough to match the level of the Snyder Cut. So, very interesting and very solid because we can validate this data, particularly this last thing I talked about, Samba TV, about Justice League overtaking other key releases in the market like Falcon and the Winter Soldier for Disney Plus. Disney, obviously, gigantic company. Marvel as a brand, wide recognition, and a lot of people were waiting for this, and there was a lot of hype actually for Falcon and the Winter Soldier. If we look at some of the data analysis from engagement online, you can see how I think Mick D from the fandom, he's done a lot of really wonderful analysis in terms of engagement as a metric for the hashtags, and you can see essentially even just the Restore the Snyderverse hashtag completely dwarfed Falcon's when the Winter Soldier over that span. I mean, we're talking about an engagement of almost 5 million versus 140,000. So it's the reach was ridiculous for these for the film on the weekend of release, and you can see it in the social media data. So a lot of conversation, a lot of hype, a lot of interest. And in addition to that, we can go and see as an additional metric, we can go to something called Apptopia, I believe it was. Bloomberg talked about this. They pointed out that for the week that ended March the 28th, downloads for the HBO Max app rose 64% for the top increase. So we are talking 64% in the very next would be AT&T TV at 2.3% increase. So we're talking about 1.48 million downloads that just happen to fall around the time that the film comes out. So we have a couple of we already have social media stats that we have evaluated ourselves that say there was something big here. A lot of people talked about it. A lot of people reached. And then you have some data analytics that, took a lot of AI and a lot of API data and a lot of analytics data that they have access to. And they say this movie was big. And then we have another one. We can go to Synalytic. Synalytic is an intelligence-driven digital service that provides easy-to-use online data and analytics resources to the film industry professionals. And they went through a peer-to-peer download path. So the P2P, they're illegal downloads, essentially. So they may not have the exact same numbers that you're looking for in social media or in actual streaming platforms, but the correlation of or the percentage of interest should be the same. If one title is very interesting on a streaming platform to customers, then it should correlate in some way to the download demand on the peer-to-peer service. So Synalytics says that between March 22nd and March 29th, which was a couple days after the film was released, the Snyder Cut had 27% of the pie in terms of downloads. The next one would be Ray and the Last Dragon with 10%. So we are talking a gigantic number. We are, over a quarter basically of peer-to-peer downloads in terms of movies. It was related to Zack Snyder's Justice League. So there is one more component here that's saying, well, this was quite possibly very, very big. So we have four sources saying that this was a major success. We have independent streamers or partners telling us that this is so big. And this is the one I wanted to talk about, the Crave TV or Crave, the streaming platform in Canada. Crave is essentially the equivalent of HBO Max in Canada in terms of its wide reach. It's part of, it's a subsidiary of a major telecommunications company across Canada. So Crave is offered to, through internet packages and cable TV packages, and you can sign up independently as well. But it's a big player in Canada because of its accessibility, and they came out front and center, and their PR company, they came out and said, well, look guys, the 4-hour epic beat Crave streaming records that were previously set by Game of Thrones. They said this was a gigantic title, this beat our record. Nobody has watched or used our service more than to watch this film. So why is this important? Number one, Crave is a gigantic company, or Bell is a gigantic company, and what they say has a lot of weight because it shows that obviously there was a lot of interest and that they were able to gather a lot of new customers and a lot of interest because of this. So Canada is a neighboring country to the United States. The population is lesser, but the relationship and the sort of mindset is not exactly the same, but it's very similar. It's as close as you can get between two countries. Very close relationship, and media consumption is, you can say it's almost identical because same language, same time zones, same release schedules. So whenever something is of high interest and has hype in the United States, it certainly will have it in Canada, and vice versa. When it comes to blockbuster films, certainly it's a common thing. So if Canada is saying this beat a record set by something insanely popular like Game of Thrones, you better believe that something similar happened in the States and with a multiplying factor of easily three. So, whether it beat records or not, it's up for debate. Who knows? Numbers are being hidden, but we are seeing from many different perspectives, from many different partners, from many different data sources, that this thing was a monster. So, to me, this film was a gigantic cultural smash hit. It was a home run because my personal metric comes from my personal interactions with people that have nothing to do with this topic. So I am hearing from my wife's side of the family, some people asking if I have seen the movie, people that I would never talk to about this ever. I am walking doing groceries and I catch two employees talking about the film. I have never seen that for except in two occasions. Number one, the Dark Knight films with Chris Nolan, particularly Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises. There was a cultural impact to those movies. In some way, the Avengers movies did that as well, and this did it. And I know that when I see people that I wouldn't expect to be involved in the topic talk about the topic, that means that there was a significant penetration in the market. And why did this happen? The marketing for Zack Snyder's Justice League was not amazing. I must admit, not that we know that these numbers are being hidden, I can sort of tell that there was a bit of a reservation in spending money to help this film succeed. But the movie was a massive home run, and probably they were not expecting it. Why did this happen? It's easy. The fans carried basically the marketing, and this is a tool that they should be using and not ignoring or hiding away. The movie, there's no doubt that it was a smash hit, a cultural success. It basically reached, the brand expanded because of this. And it's an absolute shame that it appears to be that the numbers are being hidden and they're not being used as a PR technique to claim the win and to establish let's call it, a game-changing product. Don't want to say, something silly like, like the Marvel killer or anything like that. No, that's not really what I'm talking about. What I'm saying is something that disrupts the market. Yes, people wanted to see it. People were interested to see it. It doesn't matter if they liked it or not, if it was too long, too short, it should have been like this. It doesn't matter. What matters is that a lot of people were exposed to the brand. So if you had like an exposure in VVS, to a lot of people, this was done 10 times as much, and more people saw it and more people will be expecting to see something else. So there is no denying that this movie was a smash hit. The real question is, why are these numbers being hidden? And is the word from HBO, or sorry, from Warner Brothers and Sarnoff and some of the people involved in HBO, is that they don't want anything to do with this, that that this film did not perform well, that other films outperformed it. It's very ridiculous claims when you look at the numbers that I am telling you about. So my question is, if you have independent data sources, data analytic sources, and international partners telling you that this was a hit, a record-breaking hit, a cultural impacting hit, how come the United States is dead silent? The official source, Warner Media, is not claiming this win. How come they are putting this in the back burner and staying quiet and then saying that other films created that success for HBO Max? To me, that's ridiculous and is not looking at the best interest of the company, unfortunately. But rest assured, this movie was a major success. It's yet to be seen if they're going to continue to do with this line of sort of misdirection to the investors. It would be a shame if they lie to the investors and they say that this movie did not have any significance. I think this is more than warranted, that this film or this universe deserves the investment. This is a product that people want. This is a product that despite the reluctance from the studio, it came out and it was successful, and the studio should acknowledge it. The studio and these films and these properties are not about a person's ego. They're not about a person's, job stability. It's about making the best product possible and maximizing the reach of a product. DC brand is, has multiple aspects to it, and you can make different types of products, but the Zack Snyder Justice League product as a whole should be considered an important part of the DC brand, and it should be invested on. This is not something that should be dismissed or pushed aside. I'm sorry to say, but Warner Brothers should get basically, their big boy pants on and acknowledge that this was a success. They should take the win. They themselves, accept it for the film to come out. It becomes kind of, hard to understand why you would accept to take out this movie and make it, and it succeeds, and then you're sort of intimidated by that success. I don't care if this affects Walter Hamada or DC Films or whatever plans that they have. I really don't care. I know that the facts speaks for themselves, and this is something that hit just as hard as The Dark Knight did back in 2008. Society is different, data reach is different. The way that people consume, their films is a little bit different. The cultural mindset is a little bit different, but not since Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises you have seen a DC, WB and DC film get this type of reach. And it's a shame that this is not being expanded upon. So if I am putting pressure on Warner Brothers to act upon the Snyderverse and to restore their Snyderverse, so be it. But the numbers are there. They're undeniable. This was a success. This was a hit. It's a shame that the numbers are not being put out. A lot of people have different theories as to why they're not being put out, but I like transparency and I like honesty. And I want to see those numbers in a legitimate way. I don't want to see skewed numbers. I don't want to see manipulated numbers. I just want you to acknowledge things for what they are. You did the right thing. You released this film. This film was successful. Take claim. I can't believe I am telling you this, but be proud of what you did because you did the right thing here. So get those numbers out, restore the Snyderverse, and let's have some fun.